Hello, Vermonters. I want to scarf together some ideas today for you. I think it's really important for people to know what's going on in their legislature. And I do have a law degree, but I am a Vermonter. And I am talking to Vermonters this time about H273, 2021 House Bill H273, which is about an effort to give BIPOC people, Black and Indigenous people of color, land and a $10 million grant to be administered by a BIPOC bank of people for BIPOC people to own land in every town in Vermont, even where some towns where nobody's lived in 100 years. And this might be okay. I actually had proposed a bill that would have recognized the socioeconomic disparities of Black people in this nation and tried to compensate for that through a similar program to help farms. But that was rejected because this bill is not about farming. It's about people trying to get money by calling Vermont farmers racist and systemically racist. Because H273, do read it, invokes the Abenakis, who were initially in a very small part of Vermont, particularly around Champlain Valley and the eastern townships of Canada, is where a lot of them were. And most of this area of Vermont, central Vermont, where I am, was wilderness at that time and later. And most Vermonters who are here, their ancestors came here later. But this bill specifically invokes that and then goes through all of the most horrible bills of America's history, ignoring that Vermont had the only Black legislator in America before the Civil War and was known for the particular valor of its soldiers in the Civil War and helped in the Underground Railroad and was the first city, state, or nation in the West to ban slavery and never had slavery here. But what does this say? This invokes the Jim Crow laws, the Dawes Act, redlining, sharecropping, other land policies from the federal government, Andrew Jackson, and a post-World War II bill that gave money to white people but not Black soldiers, which this bill says GIs used to come back to Vermont and could buy land that Black people couldn't buy. But at that point, dairy in Vermont was already in decline. And the 99% of white people who have lived here for these hundreds of years have lived in a poverty that the people that drafted this bill and signed it, your legislators, clearly do not understand. To call these people racist and systemically racist ignores that they had no medical care, they had no teeth, they had no food, they starved horribly through the Great Depression and afterwards, in the 40s and the 50s and the 60s, when there were fewer than 600 Black people living in this state according to the census. And according to the 1910 census, there were only 5 American Indians living, or Native Americans. Of course, many were mixed race with Native American, like in my family, and nobody said they were. But you can't trace these events, and you certainly can't trace them to malign Vermont's farmers. And for 100 years, Vermont's farmers have been hearing this stuff, including the eugenics movement, which came from the same political spectrum of deciding elitistly what you're going to do for those local natives. In the name of what? What we did to local natives? Now, let me share with you a scarf joint, okay? This is a scarf joint. This is a hand-hewn beam. Now, these beams were hand-hewn by the Trask family, who moved here in the late 1790s to Brookfield, Vermont. They are European descent. They are white. They were part of my family, one of the founding families of this town of Brookfield, along with the Stoddards, whose farm was right over that side there. I grew up hunting woodchucks in these fields when they were hayed because there were farms here. Now, when we're told that Black people are going to come farm in Vermont, are they going to make money at it? Are they going to participate in the slave-like conditions that Vermonters lived in while they stuck on this land, which we're now told was because of intergenerational racism? It is obscene that Vermont's legislature would even consider a piece of legislation like this. The Trask family and the suffering that went on here, this girl died when she was 17 of stomach cancer. She had just got out of high school. She was a friend of my mom's. She used to stay here. That's part of my farm. That was a dairy farm that went out in the 70s behind me. Yeah, I'm pointing over here. This was old man Cossett's farm. And nobody's farmed here in decades because now we have, I just learned, just over 600 dairy farms left in Vermont. We had over 29,000 in the 1920s. And we had Black farmers here. We didn't have sharecropping. Look at H273 and how it lies about and maligns Vermont farmers to make everything about race. And until the last 30 years, when Vermont's population of Black people increased over fourfold, we didn't have all these problems. Now, all of a sudden, we're racist. Why? Because many black people that move here are poor, and they are welcomed here. I'm told there are some 4,000 illegal immigrants in just in Chittenden County that they want to give the vote to. Now, if they come here from Somalia and they're poor, and then this statute and H210, the health statute, use those very discrepancies to allege that this is because Vermont's been systemically racist. The data in the 1900 and 1910 U.S. Census, you can look at it, U.S. Census Vermont, 1910, has great tables to show you where everyone was from, even where their parents were born, what state they were born in, what country they were born in. And now we don't have any statistics about where the people are coming from that are being arrested in Vermont who are black and transporting fentanyl, because they won't use those statistics because it will show that they are abusing statistics, just like they are using the statistics for the past and nation against Vermonters who are sitting here just barely scraping by the whole time. And they deserve better, and all the Vermonters deserve better. And for 20 years, we've been getting poorer while the continued salaries increase at the bloated dome. They're still doing it to us. They're still exploiting us like one more EB5 plan, and now they're using the race card. Look at H273. Contact those legislators and tell them this is an obscene lie, and we won't tolerate this anymore. Thanks for listening and learning about a hand-hewn scarf joint that we have lost the knowledge of. Let's learn to scarf things together again.